I use ChatGPT to build my get out of debt strategy. And in this video, I'm going to show you what me and Gabby Patrice Thomas, that's the name of my ChatGPT. I'm going to show you what me and Gabby came up with, the prompts that I use to build out this debt strategy. And I'm going to give you a few key call outs when working with ChatGPT or AI-based GPTs, because let's be honest, it's not perfect. And despite what you may think, it's not smarter than you. I promise you it's not. Before we get into the nitty gritty of my ChatGPT debt strategy plan, let me quickly tell you who I am. My name is Libria Jones. I'm over 40 years old. I am also obsessed with living this one and only life to the fullest and on a lifelong quest for self-mastery. And on this here channel, I share all of the things that I'm doing on that journey and on that quest, what's working, what's not working, where I triumph, where I stumble, all in the hopes that it helps you live your one and only life to the fullest as well. So if it sounds like we're on the same path, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, friend, okay? All right, let's get into this. I have been saying for years that I want to get out of debt, but for some reason, it was just not a goal I could check off. It was a goal that I struggled with year after year until I realized that it wasn't about motivation and willpower. It was about mindset. I shared a video last week sharing the 10 mindset shifts I had to make before I could make this goal a reality and actually check it off. Check that video out after you finish this one, but I will link it in the description box and I will link it above as well. But I bring it up for a reason. This is a spoiler alert. One of those mindset shifts was that I had to build a very detailed plan to get out of debt. Before, I was really just approaching this from a high level standpoint, going into the year saying, I'm gonna get out of debt. And high level being like, oh, okay, I'll pay this off by October, without being more granular. Because I was so high level, I felt like I was too far away from the problem and not being granular and detailed enough, if that makes sense. To be honest with you, getting into the weeds and being super detailed about this plan is what has me on track to pay off $60,000 in debt by the end of this year. All right, let's get right into this. I'm gonna invite you over to my trusty computer that's right there, and I'm gonna walk you through the work that Gabby and I did together. How's that? Let's go. So I decided to do this as a project because it allows you to keep things contained and maintained in one place. And you can also upload reference details. As you can see here, there's 8 files here. So you can upload reference details that it can point to, and you can also consolidate all of your chats in one place. So if you have ChatGPT, you have projects, but you may not be using them. You may be using just your chats. But you can organize all your chats in one place. And that way, if I need to reference anything related to money, I can go straight to this folder. So these are all the chats that I've had. These are all the chats that I've saved anyway in this project. So a few things that I uploaded here were my debt list. So I was like, hey, ChatGPT, here's all my debts. This is all the stuff I owe, but I also gave it my brand payments as well. So the debt list came from my Notion template where I manage all my finance information. And I basically gave it this total debt breakdown. There's a lot less debt here now because I've paid off some things, but I was like, hey, this is the list of debts, right? So here's what's key information here. Key information is going to be what type of debt, credit card or loan. So there were some loans in here. If I remove all of the filters, if I remove this filter, you'll see all of it. So this was all of it. So is it a loan? Is it personal? I also included my business debt as well, which I have not been including in my count. So I included my business debt as well. And so key information that I gave to Gabby was, what is the debt? What type of debt is it? What is the limit? What is the current balance? And what is the interest rate? That is the key information that I gave to my girl Gabby about my debt. And I made sure Gabby had that information because that's key information to help build out this strategy. I also uploaded this spreadsheet that detailed when I expected to get additional income, because my plan was to make some minimal nominal payments from my paycheck, whatever the interest was plus $200. And I also wanted to use the larger payments that I got from brands whenever I got them to strategically pay down debt as well. But I needed to tell Gabby that from those payouts, only use 80%, because if I get paid $1,000 from a brand, I need to keep $200 of that in the business because the business needs money to run itself. So that said, I can allocate 80% of the funds to actually paying down debt. So that was one of the parameters that I gave Gabby. The other parameter that I gave Gabby was that I want to prioritize paying down debt that costs the most. My first priority is debt that costs me the most. My second priority is debt that has the biggest impact on my credit score. So to reiterate, my goal is to get rid of the debt that has the highest carrying cost. As I said before in a previous video, I'm not doing the snowball method. I am trying to focus on the avalanche method because I care most about how much my debt is costing and spending big dollars on donating money to banks. And so I told Gabby that my biggest priority, my number one priority, is focusing on debt that has the highest cost. I've also mentioned a few times that I want to be a real estate investor. And so credit is important as well. And so my second priority was the debt that is going to have the biggest positive impact on my credit score. Based on that, Gabby ranked my payoffs like this. First, she said I should pay this one main financial loan off. It's the highest interest rate and it's a personal loan. Someone that does a snowball method would probably tell me to pay my car loan off first. When I first did this, my car loan was actually the lowest balance that I had. So most people would probably tell me, go ahead and pay off the car loan. But my car loan is only 4%. My car loan interest rate was 4%. Meanwhile, this one main financial loan was at, I think, 32%. Yeah, that's crazy. Interest rates were crazy, okay? And so that is why Gabby suggested, based on my priorities of wanting to pay the highest cost debt first, is pay off this one main financial loan. And then it told me next to pay off my Platinum American Express card. The interest rate on that card, I think, is like 28%, 29%, which is really freaking high. That is. So Gabby and I went through several iterations of this, and we landed on a very detailed plan that looked like this. I told it, tell me exactly how much to pay on exactly which loan in which month. And then I actually asked it to show me the balances going down. So it created a table for me, which I'm happy to show you. So I actually had Gabby make me a table that showed me, what all my balances were, and then actually list out my payments for each card for each month. And then I also asked it to show me what will the balances look like every single month once I make these payments. I asked Gabby to take into consideration the payments, the average interest amount, and show me what the balance would be after each payment was made. And the reason why I did this is because most people are motivated by seeing the numbers go down. And I wanted to be able to every month see the numbers go down and look forward and at a forecast of how those numbers would go down. So I really wanted to see what was this going to look like 2 months from now, 3 months from now, in order to keep me motivated to making sure that I followed the strategic plan. Of course, this is not a tutorial, but I will go ahead and drop a couple of prompts in the description box that you can copy and paste. Okay, the next thing I want to do is give you a few key call outs. Maybe like guidelines and best practices when working with ChatGPT. You want to make sure it has as much information as possible. Starting with, what does your debt scenario look like, right? So list out all your debts. You don't have to do it in Notion like I did. It could be in Excel, or you could literally just type it in a Word document, a note, and just copy and paste it in ChatGPT. But make sure ChatGPT understands what is the debt, so name it. What is the type of debt? What is the balance? What is the limit? What is your minimum payment? And what is your interest rate? Okay, so make sure it understands those things so they can make the calculations. That's the first thing you want to make sure ChatGPT has already. The second thing you want to make sure it has is what money is available to pay down debt. In my case, I already knew that the money that I was committing to paying off debt was going to be brand partnerships plus whatever my interest rate was, minimum payment, and $200. So I could already tell ChatGPT, this is what's going to go towards debt. Whatever brand partnership payments I have, here they are listed out. Here's when I'm supposed to get them. Only apply 80% of this money to that. And also for each credit card I have, this is how much I'm going to pay on it. If you don't know what your extra money is to pay off debt, one of the things that you could do is load your budget into ChatGPT. Upload your budget into ChatGPT so it can help you either identify what money you have left over, or it can help identify what expenses you could cut out to get additional money to pay down debt. So 2 things that it needs is, what do you have to pay and what money do you have coming in? So make sure that it has all the information to do that. In my case, I'm just having a conversation. I'm like, hey, Gabby, I need to pay off debt and I want to pay it off by the end of the year. That's another piece of important information. When are you trying to have this done so that it can build a calculation to reach that goal and that date and tell you what you got to do in order to reach that goal and that date. But in my case, I really just said, hey, this is my income. This is my debt. I would like to pay it off by the end of the year. Help me build out a strategy. And here are my parameters. And you can also ask ChatGPT to build out an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheet or a document that you can use to track this and manage it. So just consider that as well. You can actually ask ChatGPT to ask you questions. I think a lot of people miss that step. If you just tell ChatGPT to do something, it'll go off and do something. And a lot of times people are unhappy with the results, but it's because you didn't give it enough information necessarily. You may not have given it enough information. So a lot of times what I like to try to do is before ChatGPT gives me an output, I say, ask me questions that you need to get to that output. Ask me anything that you need to know to get to that output. And then it may ask you questions and get information from you that you would not have thought to give it. That helps it give you better output. I also want to call out some of the challenges that I had with ChatGPT because it is not perfect. And so I implore you, if you're going to do this, to be diligent about checking ChatGPT's work, about using your own discernment and not assuming that it's smarter than you are, and challenging it, asking it questions like, are you sure this makes sense? Is this logical and why? Okay, so don't be afraid to challenge ChatGPT because it is a very fast processor. It is processing information that you are providing it very, very quickly, but that doesn't mean it's logically and intuitively smarter than you. One of the first things that ChatGPT got wrong very often is reading the files incorrectly. So when I would upload my list of debts, either some debts would be missing, it wouldn't have the right balance on it, or it wouldn't have the right percentage interest rate. And that happened quite a bit of times to the point where I started asking ChatGPT, before we go into the analysis, I'm going to upload a file and I want you to show me your interpretation of that file, or I want you to show me a table with the data so that we can make sure we have the data accurate before we even get started. So I have started saying, hey, I'm uploading a file, show me the data you have so that I can make sure it's accurate before we move on to the next step. So here you can see I did this just a few days ago. I'm uploading my current debt balances before I ask my question. Let's confirm you processed them correctly. Note I have no more consumer loans and we're focused on credit cards only. So by this time I'd already paid off my consumer loans. Uploaded the file, it looked at it, spit it out for me, and already it was inaccurate. Immediately it was already inaccurate. And so that is one of the things you should do if you're uploading data. Go ahead and validate that the data is correct. You don't necessarily need to validate every single line item, but if you're putting this data into Excel, maybe do a total of your income and a total of your expenses and make sure that those numbers match. In this case, because I'm uploading 8 credit cards, including my business card, and I'm uploading this from a table I already have, I can just look at the table and compare notes. Like, these don't look right. And so I was told it was inaccurate. And I was like, let me look at my file. I'll be right back. And I was like, no, my data is right. You have the wrong balance on this credit card. And it quickly fixed it. So as one of the things that you want to check, make sure that it is reading the data you're giving it correctly. The other thing that it got wrong was responding to my priorities. So I told ChatGPT that I wanted to address the highest cost debt. It translated that into the highest interest rate debt. And the highest interest rate debt doesn't mean it's the highest cost. Let me give you this example. So in this example, it had prioritized that I was going to pay down this Capital One credit card next with a 25.9% interest rate. Now, my Navy Federal Credit Visa card has an 18% interest rate, which means the interest rate is significantly lower. But in my mind, yeah, the interest rate is lower, but the balance is significantly higher. So that's probably costing me more at this point. And so I asked that question, is my Capital One card costing me more than my Visa card? I know the interest rate's lower, but the Visa balance is higher. It gave me these numbers and said, no, Capital One's costing you more. And I was like, actually, you're talking about the wrong card, because I know that the balance on the card I'm talking about is over $10,000. So I was like, hey, that's not the card I'm talking about. The balance has $10,895. So it looks like you're missing that. So once again, it was missing data. And so then it went and calculated all of that, put it back into the mix, and turns out I was right. Though the interest rate was only 18%, it was actually costing me $163 per month versus the Capital One card that it told me to focus on because the interest rate was higher. That card was costing me $106 per month in comparison to this other card. I want to make sure that you're just not taking what ChatGPT says because it's quote unquote smarter than you. You know your data, you know your information, and you can ask the question, right? Question it, challenge it, force it to prove it's right. You see what I'm saying? So in this case, it was wrong. I had to kind of push back on that. And that's what led us to realize that it was missing data as well. Okay, it actually did it again. So here it's telling me to focus on paying down. So it got down to, here's my loans and then my American Express card and then my American Express cards. Focus on that next. And then it was telling me to start focusing on my Navy Federal cards. I have a Navy Federal American Express card and then 2 Visa cards. And it was telling me to start focusing on my Navy Federal Amex card first. Now, these 3 cards have the very same interest rate. They have different balances. And so I asked, why are you telling me to focus on this one first? I said, I'm just curious. Is there a reason you're telling me to focus on my Navy Federal Amex card before my Visa card? And so it was saying, this is based on balance. So the balance on your Navy Federal Amex card is higher than your Navy Federal Platinum Visa card. And they have the same interest rate. So you should focus on the one with the highest balance. And I was like, but then why not the Navy Federal Visa card? That balance is $10,000, as we talked about already, $10,895. I just shared that in the last example, right? And it said, great catch. Girl, get it together. Get it together. And so it listed this and then explained to me why didn't we focus on the Visa card first? And it was like, we're going to make that the priority in January. And I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense. Gabby explained that like, oh, we're going to focus this on January. I was like, I still don't understand why you aren't suggesting that I focus on the Navy Federal Visa card ending in 9808 before the Amex and the Platinum Visa, because it costs more to carry this card. And it said, you are 100% right to press on this. And you caught something that most people wouldn't. Let me break it down. It's clearly, and where the logic failed to follow the math. So ChatGPT admitted that its logic failed to follow the math. And it says, I'm correcting this now. All right. So feel free to press ChatGPT to get it right, because it got this wrong. I specifically said, this card costs more than these other cards. Why are you not focusing on this first? And it tried to give me some logic. If you remember, like, it tried to explain to me, oh, no, this is why. And I'm like, nah, that don't make sense, boo. That don't make any sense. And so ChatGPT corrected it. She still, like, her logic still doesn't make sense, because she said she had originally grouped the 18% cards together and sorted them by balance. Meanwhile, the balance on this card is still the highest, and you hadn't called that out as the highest. Even ChatGPT's explanation for why the logic fell apart doesn't make sense, because it says, I had originally grouped all the 18% cards together and then sorted them by balance. Even if you sorted them by balance, I have continued to maintain that this card had the highest balance. So how did you order them this way? It doesn't make sense. Get it together, Gabby. Get it together. Hopefully that walkthrough was helpful. And my goal here is really to push you to question ChatGPT and to monitor, check, audit, challenge ChatGPT as well. I really want to share very quickly some of the reasons why I chose to use ChatGPT to build out this plan. Because truly, I could have built out my own debt strategy plan, right? Like, I know the numbers, I know what I'm getting paid, but like, why did I choose to use ChatGPT for this? One, I wanted to be exposed to things that I might not have considered on my own. One of the things that I like about ChatGPT is it's a great collaboration tool. It is looking at multiple options and scenarios, and it has access to information that I have not seen, right? Because it can scour the internet very, very quickly. And so it's ingesting information that I may not have been exposed to, seen, or even potentially remembered or thought about how it could apply to me. And I love that the strategy that ChatGPT came up with was to pay off my loans first. I was focused on paying off my credit cards first, because I really wanted to see the bumps in my credit score. And I knew paying off my loans would actually decrease my credit score. I knew that was going to happen. But ChatGPT changed my thinking in that if we go ahead and take that hit early, as we pay off your credit cards and your score starts to go up, we get farther and farther and farther away from that hit from when you paid off your loans. So you have time on your hands if you go ahead and pay off your loans first. And so I'm glad that I did this with ChatGPT because it made me think about some things that I was not thinking about and approach this in a way that I was not approaching it before. I like that ChatGPT put that up for consideration and helped me understand why that approach was better. The second reason is I thought it would be faster. And to be honest, it I don't even know if it was faster, to be honest with you. I think that because I kept having to check it and tell it was wrong and push back and change things, I'm not sure I think it was faster, but I do think that it's going to benefit me in the long run. So if you notice, the project that I showed you is called Finish Rich. So I'm not just using this project for my debt payoff strategy. I'm using it for my financial picture as a whole. And so I think based on the things that it's learned in this phase of our discussion, that all of that will feed into our future conversations and that stuff will go a lot faster. I thought it would be faster. It wasn't that fast this time, but I do believe that it will benefit from the exercise that we went through in the long run. And the third reason is I wanted to feel like I had a third party advising me. Not everybody can have access to a financial advisor. And so I wanted to feel as if I had a third party collaborating with me, looking over my shoulder, checking my work, challenging my thinking. So it almost felt like I had an advisor as well. So that was one of the reasons why I used ChatGPT also. I hope that was helpful. I hope that little sneak peek into me and Gabby's work was helpful. And I hope you figure out a way to make this fit you as well. Because the truth is, having a goal to get out of debt is noble and it's necessary, but it's not enough. You know what I mean? Just the goal is not enough. You need a detailed plan and a detailed strategy to actually make it happen. Either you build out that plan and that strategy yourself, or you use something like a ChatGPT or a Claude to build that out for you, or you collaborate on it. Either way, please don't be like me. Please have an actual plan. Let's talk about it in the comments. Would you use something like ChatGPT to build out a detailed payoff plan? Is that something you would be into? Is that something that you're hesitant to do? Or it just never even occurred to you to do it until this video? Let's talk about it in the comments. Meet me in the comments. Y'all know I like to talk to y'all. So drop it in the comments. In the meantime, if you missed the video on the 10 mindset shifts I had to make before I actually got serious about this goal, make sure you check that video out next. And thanks for hanging out. I will see you in the next video.